So I just finished part one of Adam Curtis's The Trap documentary, a BBC documentary about how the notion of the rational control of society, in a way giving over the control of society to some kind of a mathematical theory, game theory, instead of having it in the hands of these government bureaucrats who pretend to be working for the public good when really these um, game theorists believe they are self-interested beings, because for the game theorists, human beings are inherently, unavoidably selfish entities who are isolated and alone and fearful of everybody else, and constantly having to plan how best to get the upper hand over everybody, including their own family members. And Curtis's argument is basically that this idea, while it masquerades as attempting to provide a greater sense of freedom and self fulfillment and self um, control, people having control over their own lives, what ends up happening is society gets repressed and is forced to fit into this model of the selfish individual versus everybody else. And while the goal seems to be to allow intelligence and rationality to be the government, not people, but just intelligence, just numbers, just computers, what ends up happening is a form of fascism like we've never experienced before. Um, and I think what this is really showing, this desire to get rid of all the subjectivity and the feelings and the sense of connection between human beings, and replace it with this top-down management, not by individual people, but by computer systems and these intelligent programs, supposedly. I think what this shows, it sort of undermines in Menham's argument that we should move more and more towards this kind of rational control and away from the subjective qualities of human life. And I think it shows how that backfires. This documentary is a great example of that. And I think everybody should watch it. I'm going to watch part two right now. And we'll see how it changes the discussion that we've been having. So I'll put a link in the description box, and we should check it out. Oh, I also wanted to mention, there's Artie Lang is mentioned, a psychiatrist, or an anti-psychiatrist, I guess you would say, from Britain, who really started applying game theory to psychology and these psychological tests of sanity. And he basically showed how the psychiatric community of doctors that tried to pretend as though they knew the difference between sanity and insanity were actually just, totally in the dark about it. There was an experiment done where 8 perfectly normal professionals admitted themselves into psych wards with one symptom. They said they heard a voice in their head that said, one word like bang or something like that, and they were all perfectly healthy individuals with no mental health history, and they all got admitted into the hospital, and the psychiatrist there diagnosed them all as either schizophrenic or manic depressive, and they had to stay there for months because they couldn't convince the psychiatrist that they were just running an experiment and they're not really crazy. The psychiatrist didn't believe them, and they had to stay there for months until basically they agreed with the psychiatrist's diagnosis that, yeah, I'm crazy, but I'm getting better. So, and eventually they were let go. And Artie Lang used game theory to show that even psychiatrists, they're all out for their own self-interest, and that they can't really ever tell what the general public good is. And, in a way, this is true. But the problem is these game theorists don't understand that they are projecting their own idea of human nature onto people, and then getting the results back that they expected to get from the beginning. Whereas if you project the opposite view of human nature onto these people, I'm sure you would also get the results back that you suspected from the beginning. Artie Lang did one experiment with spouses and family members to show, or what he thought showed, that they were all, constantly conspiring against one another. But I think it is pretty obvious that that kind of an experiment is biased. What he did was, he followed around the wife and the husband and asked them every 5 minutes, so what are you thinking now? What do you think your husband's thinking now? You think he's conspiring to do this, or is he conspiring to do that? And so on and so forth. And Artie Lang, was projecting his own paranoia onto these spouses, causing them to then think about it. Whereas before, they probably weren't, were they? They were probably in love with one another, thinking they could trust each other. But until Artie Lang came along. So just some stuff to think about, and see where it takes us. Yep, thanks for listening.